Most times we procrastinate when confronted with a task that you simply don't want to do or complete because it's difficult, it's long, it's drawn out, it's tedious, and therefore it seems insurmountable. As a human being, you have the power to talk yourself in or out of anything. This is really important to note. Most times, however, we have the instinct to run towards comfort and away from pain. If you stack enough mental justifications as to why the task doesn't need to be done now or why it can be got to later, then it will simply never be completed. This is procrastination in a nutshell. If there's one thing that has the power to hold us back from making any meaningful progress over time, the culprit generally is always procrastination. This is likened to the invisible force that pulls you back by your heels, and it has the potential power to cost you everything in life. An interesting quote from Chris Williamson, who I know from my hometown in the northeast of England. He was on the Joe Rogan show, and he stated that hell is where who you are meets who you could have been. Now, the crazy thing about this is one of the main forces behind this potential worst case scenario is succumbing to procrastination. Whilst we all know that success, however you define it, isn't linear, once you learn to temper the urge to put the big important tasks off, this will naturally unlock the ultimate shortcut to business and life mastery for you in the straightest line possible. Who could we be if we stopped procrastinating? What goals could we achieve if we actually sat down and planned them out? And that sometimes our worst enemy is actually ourselves. Today, we're going to be delving into how to face off and overcome this faceless devil, the one anchoring you to your present state instead of your desired situation. As high-functioning human beings, reading and listening to this, I don't need to define or tell you what procrastination is. So, instead, we'll focus this episode on how it manifests, what it means for your business, and of course, strategies to eradicate it completely from your life and business. Remember, it's not who am I, it's who am I becoming. Who we are in life is not fixed. We have the agency to pin our character down and install new skills, actions, and beliefs. I remember when starting my first e-commerce business back in 2015, I had no money for courses or any mentors. I didn't have an entrepreneurial network around me at all, really. I had to wear multiple hats in the business, most of which I knew nothing about and really detested doing, particularly the admin-heavy side of things. Despite this, because failure wasn't an option for me, I forced myself to do whatever the business required of me to get the job done. For you, in the early days, before you have the cash flow to hire out those more low-leverage tasks, you also need to learn to do the same. In this episode, I'll teach you how to do the work irrespective of how you feel. So let's look into the top causes of entrepreneurial procrastination. Most times we procrastinate when confronted with a task that you simply don't want to do or complete because it's difficult, it's long, it's drawn out, it's tedious, and therefore it seems insurmountable. As a human being, you have the power to talk yourself in or out of anything. This is really important to note. Most times, however, we have the instinct to run towards comfort and away from pain. If you stack enough mental justifications as to why the task doesn't need to be done now or why it can be got to later, then it will simply never be completed. This is procrastination in a nutshell. In the early stages of business, you may lead towards procrastination because maybe you don't know what to do. You don't know what your money dials are, which are technically the important tasks, and therefore you can waste so much time working on projects that you enjoy, but then you don't actually move the business forward because they're not important. This is where having a mentor by your side becomes crucial to business success. Whilst we're on the topic of not knowing what to do in business or investing time into the wrong activities, these are guaranteed to slow down your progress. Making avoidable mistakes will cost you years, many hundreds of thousands of dollars, both in actual expenditure and also the opportunity cost as well. This, when put together, extends your timeline, your path towards your time, location, and financial freedom, which, let's be honest, is what most of us actually get into business to achieve. If you'd like to join my next cohort of e-com entrepreneurs who want to scale to six-figure months, that's a minimum 100K plus in revenue, then you can apply to join the Invent Impossible e-com mastery course, which kicks off in August. I'm only opening up 10 spots for this first run. The next opportunity, if you miss the cohort in August, will be in November. If you'd like to work with me me one-to-one alongside a group of fellow entrepreneurs at a similar stage as yourself and follow a proven step-by-step process that I've used over and over to scale multiple businesses from 5 and 6 to 7-figure revenues profitably. My wider hope is that you're going to make some amazing connections within the community. You can also help each other with similar struggles if you're going through the same problems. The entrepreneurial journey, as you probably know, can and does get very lonely. I struggled with this for a long time, so you don't need to travel this journey alone. I'll teach and give you the exact infrastructure, the ways of working, the mindset, the performance marketing framework of a 7-figure direct-to-consumer e-com brand to plug straight into your own business. So if you're feeling stuck, you have time to invest, then this Done With You program is guaranteed to 10x your business in the next 3 months. I've literally designed it from the ground up to be the resource that I wish I had and that I needed when I started out almost 10 years ago now. You can take the first step to apply at inventimpossible.com, or you can DM me on Instagram at Lou Antonio Matera. The links will all be in the description below. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. If we're talking about task avoidance or task selection, let's say for instance you might like the creative process of website building. Now, if you only focus your time, effort and energy into this and then you neglect the back-end operational side, for example, so cash flow or your distribution element, simply because you don't enjoy doing it, then the second, third and sometimes fourth order consequences of this are going to impact your business negatively down the line. It's very easy to kick the proverbial can down the road instead of just confronting whatever particular task it is head on. But in business, this just can't work. You need to develop the self-awareness to know when you're putting off an important task and also choosing the path of least resistance. Do this enough times and you'll find yourself back in the 9-to-5 grind. It's almost inevitable. Not good at all. We're now going to look at the 3 most common causes and also the types of entrepreneurial procrastination. The first one being perfectionism. A primary reason for procrastination is the fear of maybe reducing choices or facing the fact that you may never actualize something in reality as perfectly as maybe it looks in your imagination. Everything around you, if you think about it, actually originated first as a thought or image in someone's head. Was it perfect first time? Probably not. Like most things, it probably or most likely improved over time with each iteration. But think about it. If they had held off launching due to it not being perfect or 100%, it probably would have never came into existence in the first place. Or someone else may have taken or came up with the same idea and ran with it. Being a perfectionist it's a common trait with entrepreneurs. You probably want your design to be the best it possibly can be, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And after all, most times this is your life's work, this is your passion, if you can merge it with your profession. And you can also sometimes think your reputation is on the line. Where this can lead to a beautifully designed product or services, there is such a thing as spending too much time on a research and design project and maybe not allowing it out into the world quick enough. If you don't know how to build, make or design, or you're maybe worried about a particular feature of your product or business, as the business owner, it's your job to learn how to do it. And the key heuristic here is to start now and get perfect later. Now, the second reason generally boils down to fear of judgment. A fear of external judgment may also drag you into this perfectionism trap. In a nutshell, it's undue concern about what others are going to think. You think, if I do this and it's not good enough, will others judge me and think I'm not good enough, or they'll think me to X, Y, or Z, you fill in the blanks. Or even they'll think you're ridiculous for having even tried in the first place. This is a lie. There are tons of reasons to be kind of orientated outwards or pay attention to what others think, and also maybe what the world needs, that there is a difference. And the balance is in realizing that if you over-index either of these 2 reasons, then it's literally possible to do nothing. There's a book by Eric Ries called The Lean Startup, and he talks about getting product to market quickly. He encourages you to start with an MVP, which stands for minimal viable product, or MVS, minimal viable service, and then you let the market tell you what it wants, what it likes or dislikes, as opposed to spending years refining a product. This is the best way to make progress when setting up shop. Reid Hoffman, co-founder at LinkedIn, states that if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, then you've probably launched too late. This is a fantastic heuristic to reframe any hidden procrastination around bringing your product or new range to market. The third one is fear of insecurity. Whenever you start to look outwards, you see there are others doing whatever you're doing, probably seemingly better. And this prompts your inner voice to ask, why does the world need another whichever product you're bringing out. And those thoughts, those intrusive thoughts, can be filled by almost anything that you're thinking about doing. This is a surefire way to fall into the comparison trap. And as we all know, comparison is a thief of joy. Can you imagine if Pepsi decided not to take on Coca-Cola just because Coca-Cola got there first and they did a good job of the product, did a good job of the marketing? Trust me when I say there is room for disruption in almost all fields, in all industries and most verticals. There's plenty of money to go around for challenger brands, but it's up to you to place your own unique stamp on your product or service to make sure that you're in with a chance of taking a slice of the pie. The problem is no one is going to do this for you. You need to do the work. Assuming you're fit and healthy, you exercise regularly, make sure to train your mind the exact same way that you train your body. As an entrepreneur, most times you're generally paid for your thoughts and what these thoughts are able to manifest into your reality. I would encourage you all to become a mental athlete and build a rock solid mindset where you're solely focused on building your own empire. You're not focusing on those who have a 10-year head start on you. That said, you can still take inspiration from those who are ahead of you, but you cannot compare. Your journeys are completely separate. You're on different timelines, and you cannot compare another person's level 10 business with your own level 1, 2, or 3. This will breed discouragement and resent. It will just compound your internal drive to procrastinate. Remember, every winner was once a beginner and every master was once a disaster. Number 4, this is a very common reason, and it's just as simple as I don't want to do the task, so I'm putting it off. This is a very common internal thought. It may be because it's something that someone else has tasked you with doing, or because you have a dread of whatever the task might uncover if you actually do it. It could also be because you know it's complex and it's messy, or maybe it's going to take a long time to do or to resolve. This reason holds a lot of entrepreneurs back, and it's something you need to be able to get out in front of and counteract. So, how do we finally overcome procrastination? The early Stoics seemed hyper aware of the plague of procrastination even back then, and they offered some great advice on how to overcome it. Marcus Aurelius suggested that you take it step by step. No one can stop you from doing that. He encourages you not to focus on the huge task at hand, and instead ask yourself, what's the smallest thing you can do right now? Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, actually said that well-being is realized by small steps, but it's no small thing. What he's trying to get across here is that maybe part of the reason you're procrastinating or you're feeling that urge to put the task off is because you have so much on your plate. The Stoics say we have to eliminate what is inessential so that we can focus on what is essential. Forget about outcomes. When we focus on what we can control, which is our inputs, then we start to make progress. Another important topic is to not be too focused on the outcome. Instead, think about what can I do today to move me further towards my end outcome. It's all a case of just chipping away at it step by step. But the main thing is that you actually start the process now and you don't push it off to another day. Remember, small steps, when compounded over a long time, make for assured progress. As a side note to this, maybe ask yourself, am I putting my very best into it? Most times it's not the volume of work that counts, it's more the focus on quality, and the quality is what allows growth to occur. As an entrepreneur who's escaped, or maybe is in process of escaping the 9-to-5 drudgery, or maybe you're just simply trying to avoid it if you've just graduated, sometimes you can feel compelled to fall back into these kind of old work for work's sake trap. So say in a 9-to-5 environment, you're walking around, you're making a coffee, there's a little bit of small talk going on, or you're just making phone calls but not actually doing anything. You're just chit-chatting with colleagues, you're shuffling papers to feel and look busy, but in reality, you're not actually doing any meaningful work. Instead, you're back into time wasting. Now, we all know time is our most valuable non-renewable asset. The 9-to-5 matrix script actually encourages time wasting, especially if you're salaried and you're not paid for outcomes. When running your own business, this way of working is a surefire road to failure. It just can't work. And one of the sole predictors in life and business is being ready and able to do hard things. I'm talking about a consistent approach to take the difficult decision and not shy away from doing whatever stands between you and the next milestone. Remember, whatever hinders your task becomes your task. When you're just starting out in business, you have so many hats to wear. You've got so many moving parts, particularly so if we keep the example of an e-commerce business. There's multiple modules, there's a lot to be done every single day. All of the responsibility in the early days falls on your shoulders, and most times no one is actually going to do the work for you. Irrespective of how you feel about the task, if it's holding you back from progressing, then you have no option as the business owner but to get your head down and complete it. In Alex Hormozi's words, instead of spending time just getting into the mood to work, just start working. Confront the work. People think that they need perfect conditions to start, when in reality, starting is the perfect condition. It's a fantastic quote. And in reality, this means that your ability to knuckle down and do the hard work is the only thing standing between you and making meaningful progress. The next time you feel that maybe silent urge to put an important task away for later on, push it to tomorrow's to-do list or next week, just ask yourself, what would you tomorrow want you to do today? It's an interesting question to ask yourself, and it feeds quite nicely into our next tactic to overcome procrastination, which is to try gamify things. Try to understand the consequences of task avoidance and maybe assign it a priority. Learn and apply the principles of Parkinson's law. Now, Parkinson's law dictates that a task will swell in perceived importance and complexity in relation to the time allocated for its completion. What does that mean? It basically means that you need to set tight deadlines and just get it over with. For example, if you set yourself a month to complete a task, it will generally take you a month. If you set it to be done before the end of day, then you'll probably have done it before 5 o'clock. A very good way to make sure that you stick to these self-imposed deadlines is to bring on an accountability partner. This could maybe be a mentor, a business partner, investor, or maybe a customer or family member. Basically anyone who can offer you some sort of external pressure to complete whatever the task is. If your network is small, then you can try gamifying it by setting yourself small milestone rewards. It could literally be as simple as giving yourself an early finish, or you're allowed a cup of coffee from Starbucks. It doesn't have to be complicated, but you can gamify it and also make it a little bit fun, as opposed to being serious all of the time in business. Another interesting tactic is to learn the art of proactive procrastination. What does this mean? So it's also called structured procrastination, and it's a technique where you intentionally delay the less important or less urgent tasks by focusing on activities that are actually beneficial for your personal or business growth. This is a way of working where you train yourself to focus on the high impact tasks and you use prioritization to tackle the most meaningful urgent task. British property entrepreneur Rob Moore, in his book Life Leverage, refers to these as high IGT tasks. IGT refers to income generating tasks. Once you learn your high impact activities, these should always take precedent, irrespective about how you feel about doing the task itself. Developing strong discipline in this area will get you a long way. I mentioned it in a previous episode on overcoming the fear of starting your own business, but I brought up Seth Godin's advice from his book Eat That Frog, and this refers to basically doing the thing that you least want to do first. Trust me, everything flows a lot easier past that point, and your productivity can skyrocket from the positive emotions you feel once it's crossed off your to-do list. This, in turn, will reward you with good dopamine, which will cascade and fuel you through to complete other future difficult tasks. This kind of biohacking, this internal positive reinforcement is very rewarding, versus that looming shadow over your shoulder that kind of follows you around when you know you've got an important task to do, but you just put it away or you avoid it. Tim Ferriss also has a very good rule of looking for whatever the lead domino is. In a nutshell, you just need to ask yourself, which of these tasks, if done, make the rest easier or irrelevant? If you can find a way to look for single decisions that remove hundreds or thousands of other decisions, whilst this is more productivity focused, I guess, it still helps you narrow down the tasks just to the most important ones, so you now know what to tackle. If you're able to break down any seemingly large tasks into smaller bite-sized chunks and work at these consistently over time, this is also a very good way to chip away at the bigger projects. Remember, all of this work that you do, if it's consistent, the work is stored and it's allowed to compound until completion. The problem is if you stop, if you take a day off, or if you break routine, you'll lose momentum, your progress stalls, and then you're just back into that putting it off again cycle, which is no good. This is why consistency in setting your character traits up to identify as someone who doesn't procrastinate is very important. Remember, you define your own traits. Nothing is fixed, and it's all up to you to show and prove to others and to yourself that you are who you say you are. Build that stack of undeniable proof and show up for yourself and those around you to show that you're actually capable of doing extraordinary things. Okay, another tactic is to set your day plan or your routine and also your environment up for success. This is super easy, but also very important. And it's probably one of the biggest hacks because it doesn't really require much learning. You simply need to remove any and all unnecessary distractions. So that means no notifications, no TV in the room, no social media apps, put the dog in another room, stop the cat from distracting you, your phone's on silent or put it in another room, and if possible, noise cancelling headphones so your distractions are minimal and you can literally be single task focused. Another side of it is to actually block off time for deep work and allow yourself to get into that flow state. Most times this is where the magic happens, when you lose all sense of time and you're simply focused on completing the task. I'll cover this entrepreneurial superpower, I call it, in a future episode, but there's plenty reading online about this. And if you want to do a little bit more digging into it, I'd recommend a very good book by Cal Newport. I think it's titled Deep Work, so have a look at that. So this was quite a long one, and I still feel we've barely scratched the surface on the topic. But procrastination, let's be honest, it plagues us all. Even myself, 10 years in, with all of my systems and optimizations and routines. But the important thing to know is that we can take preventative action. We can overcome it. There are proactive steps to take to overcome it. We just need to master them and hopefully try to eradicate it from our life. Since we brought up Chris Williamson at the start, it only feels right to paraphrase another one of his tweets, and hopefully this one hits home for you. Okay, here we go. It goes something like this. Here is a list of things that are not doing the thing. Preparing to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Scheduling time to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Making a to-do list for the thing isn't doing the thing. Telling people you're going to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Messaging friends who may or may not be doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Writing a banger tweet about how you're going to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on yourself for not doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Or hating on other people who have done the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on the obstacles in the way of doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Fantasizing about the adoration you'll receive once you've done the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading about how to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading about how other people did the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading this essay or listening to this video isn't doing the thing. And the only thing that is doing the thing is doing the thing. Strangest loop. Anyway, that's all for this one. I'll see you in the next. To your continued success, Lou Antonio.